Assalomu alaykum, hurmatli tinglovchilar. Men Hayit va Feruza Abduhalikovna, xorijiy filologiya fakulteti ingliz tili va adabiyoti kafedrasi o'qituvchisi. Bugun biz o'rganilayotgan til nazariy aspektlari fani bo'yicha Expressive means and stylistic devices mavzusida ma'ruza o'tamiz. Hello, my dear prescribers or subscribers or learners. I'm going to talk about today's lecture is about expressive means and stylistic devices. The subject is theoretical aspects of learned language. Firstly, we'll discuss expressive means and stylistic devices, phonetic and graphical expressive means and stylistic devices. What is expressive means and stylistic device? Expressiveness, a kind of intensification of an utterance or a part of it. And what is emotiveness? Emotiveness, the emotions of writer or speaker. Expressiveness, broader than emotiveness. Emotiveness occupies a predominant position in expressiveness. There are media in language which aim at logical emphasis of a certain part of utterance. They evoke no feelings but serve the purpose of verbal actualization of the utterance. Expressive means phonetic, morphological, word-building, lexical, phraseological, and syntactical forms which exist in language as a system for the purpose of logical and/or emotional intensification of the utterance. All these forms have neutral synonyms. Phonetic expressive means pitch, melody, stress, whispering, manner of speaking, pauses, and etc. For example, buzz, his, and ba. This is phonetic means of expressiveness. Expressive means and stylistic devices. Firstly, I'm going to talk word building. Word building expressive means suffixes and productive patterns of word formation. Lexical expressive means words which obtain inherent expressiveness perceived without any context. There are words with emotive meaning, only words which have both referential and emotive meaning, slang, vulgar, poetic, and archaic words, set phrases and phraseological units. And morphological expressive means grammatical forms, tenses, pronouns, articles, modal verbs which obtain inherent expressiveness perceived without any context. And syntactical expressive means constructions which reveal a certain degree of logical and emotional emphasis. Stylistic devices is a conscious and intentional intensification of some typical structure or semantic property of the language unit, neutral or expressive, promoted to a generalized status, and thus becoming a generative model. Stylistic devices function as texts as marked units and always carry additional information. Most stylistic devices display an application of two meanings, the ordinary one, which has already been established in the language as a system, and the special meaning, which is attributed to the unit by text. For example, a meaning which appears in the language in action. For example, the night was swallowed him up. Ilya Romanovich Galperin's classification based on the level-oriented approach, phonetic expressive means and stylistic devices, graphical expressive means and stylistic devices, lexical expressive means and stylistic devices, syntactical expressive means and stylistic devices. Firstly, we'll discuss phonetic expressive means and stylistic devices. There are onomatopoeia, alliteration, rhyme, and rhythm. Firstly, we discuss onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeic words, the use of words whose sounds imitate those of an object or action. For example, hiss, murmur. A message with an onomatopoeic word carries not only the logical information, but also supplies the vivid portrayal of the situational described. There are two variations of onomatopoeic words. For example, direct onomatopoeic words, and the second one is indirect onomatopoeic words. Direct onomatopoeic words that imitate natural sounds, for example, ding, dong, burr, bang, cuckoo. It is animals imitating sounds. And the next, indirect onomatopoeic words, a combination of sounds, the aim of which is to make the sound of the utterance an echo of its sense. For example, and the silken sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain. The next, we'll discuss graphical expressive means and stylistic devices. Sound is foregrounded mainly through the change of its aspected graphical representation. This intentional violation of the graphical shape of the word is used to reflect its authentic pronunciation is called graphone. Graphone, effective means of supplying information about the speaker's origin and social, educational background, physical or emotional condition, and etc. The main functions of graphical expressive means, especially graphone, are to express the author's attitude to the characters. For example, Butler Yellow Plush impresses his listeners with the learned words, pronouncing them as celebrated or celebrated, benevolent or benevolent. To show the physical defects of the speakers, the stuttering, the bastard, he's seen me coming, to convey the atmosphere of authentic life communication, of the informality of the speech act. For example, give me, it is the variant of give me. Let me, it is the let me. Gonna, going to, gotta, got to, and etc. It is to convey the atmosphere of authentic live communication. Graphical expressive means graphical changes may reflect not only the peculiarities of pronunciation, but are also used to convey the intensity of the stress, emphasizing the thus foregrounding the stressed words. For example, to such purely graphical means we should refer all changes of the type, italics, capitalization, maybe spacing of graphemes, hyphenation, multiplication, and of lines. For example, help, help, or help. He was grinning like a chimpanzee. All abroad. It is the graphical means we would change of the type, capitalization, or the change of the type, italics. The next, I'm going to talk about lexical expressive means. Lexical expressive means is divided metaphor, metonymy, and also other devices. For example, I'm going to talk about metaphor. Firstly, metaphor is a relation between the dictionary and contextual logical meanings based on the similarity of certain properties or features of the two corresponding concepts. For example, though the open window, the dust dances and was golden. And another easy example, I'm Sadie. For example, she is a fox. Fox is meaning cunning. She is a fox. The next, I'm going to talk about personification. Personification is a transfer of features and characteristics of a person to a thing, very often nature, prescribing to a phenomenon qualities, feeling and thoughts of the human being. Personification is especially used cartoons and cinemas. Slowly, silently, now and moon walks the night in her silverly shows. De la Mer by. The next, lexical expressive means allusion. Allusion is a brief reference to some literary or historical event or character commonly known. For example, the rise is poverty will unlock the Pandora's box of crimes. And the next device is about metonymy. Metonymy is based on some kind of association connecting the two concepts which these meanings represent. For example, proximity may be revealed in the relations between the symbol the thing is denotes. For example, the crown, the royal family. The instrument and the action performed with this instrument. For example, his pen is rather sharp. The container the thing it contains, for example, he drank one more cup. When the specific is put for the abstract, it was a representative gathering science and politics. The next, when a part is put for the whole. For example, hand worker. The next lexical expressive means is about hyperbole. Hyperbole is a deliberate overstatement, exaggeration that's used to intensify one of the features of the object. For example, the coffee shop smell was strong enough to build a garage on. The next example, for example, I have said million times. We don't say million times, and we exaggerate the meanings of million times I've said. The next example of understatement. Understatement melosis is lessening, weakening, and underrating, reducing the real characteristics of the object of speech. It serves to underline the insignificance of what we speak about it. For example, she wore a pink hat, the size of a button, by John Reed. The next, we talked about syntactical expressive means and stylistic devices. It is divided inversion, detached construction, and other devices. Firstly, inversion. What is inversion? Is the violation of the fixed word order within an English sentence. There are two major kinds of inversion. The first, grammatical, exclamatory or integrative sentences, and stylistic. It adds an emotive and emphatic coloring. For example, and the palm trees, I like them not, by Agatha Christie. Inversion may be of two types, complete and partial inversions. Detached constructions are to be regarded as a special kind of inversion when some parts of the sentence are syntactically separated from its other members, with which they are grammatically and logically connected. For example, Formidable and Pandarus, counsel for the defense arose by Agatha Christie. She was gone for good. The word order here is not violated, but secondary members obtain their own stress and intonation because they are detached from the rest of the sentence by commas, dash, or even a full stop. She was gone and for good. It is the rest of sentence by dash or full stop. The next device is about repetition. Repetition is recurrence of the same word combination or phrase for two or more times, according the place which the repeated unit occupies in a sentence. Utterance repetition is classified into several types. For example, anaphora, epiphora, anadiplosis, framing, and chain repetitions. Firstly, anaphora repetition of the first word of word group is several successive sentences, clauses, or phrases. And the epiphora repetition of the final word or group, word groups. Anadiplosis or catch repetition at the beginning of the phrase, clause, or sentence of a word or a word group that has recurred in initial, middle of the final position of the preceding word sequence. And the next, framing repetition or ring repetition, repetition of the same unit at the beginning and at the end of the same sentence or paragraph. The last one is chain repetition, represents several successive anadiploses. For example, A, B, or B, C, C. The effect is that of the smoothly developing logical reasoning. The next syntactic stylistic device is about ellipsis. Ellipsis is the omission of word necessary for the complete syntactical construction of the sentence, but not necessary for understanding. Ellipsis is mainly used in dialogue to reflect natural omissions characterizing oral colloquial speech. In author's introductory remarks, to comment on the speech of the characters. For example, you feel all right. Anything wrong or what? It is ellipsis. Break in the narrative in a sudden intentional break in the narration or dialogue. It reflects the emotional, physiological state of the speaker. The speaker's emotions prevent him from finishing it, the desire to cut short the information with which the sentence begins. For example, on the whole table, there were a couple of letters addressed to her. One was the bill, the other, I'm sorry, Thomas. Break in the newspapers. Thank you for your attention. If you liked my lecture, press button like and subscribe my YouTube channel. Thanks for your attention.